Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Kate Deneen, and I'm the Communications Manager at the Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound in Hyannis, Mass. And the Alliance to Protect Nantucket Sound is an environmental group dedicated to the long-term preservation of Nantucket Sound. And we view the Cape Wind project proposed for Nantucket Sound as the biggest threat to the Sound and to the Cape and Islands. So today we have Audra Parker, who is the Director of Strategic Planning at the Alliance. And welcome, Audra. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Audra will begin by just telling us a little bit more about the Cape Wind project for the viewers who may not be so familiar with the threats. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Cape Wind is an industrial scale project that's being proposed for Nantucket Sound. It would be 25 square miles, so a footprint about the size of the island of Manhattan, comprised of 130 towers, each 440 feet tall, and including an industrial transformer substation the size of about a 10-story parking garage. If you wanted to look at a scale comparison, we can show you the size of each of the turbines compared to such benchmarks as the Statue of Liberty, the Bunker Hill Monument, and perhaps you're familiar with the turbine at the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers,
which is right here,
going into Boston. But it is an industrial scale project, massive in size, and totally inappropriate for a location like Nantucket Sound. And Katie, maybe I can just tell you about some of the issues that we see with the Cape Wind project, and some of the problems that we'll have locally on the Cape and Islands if this project were to go forward, and why it's important to get everyone involved to really make their voices heard and stop this inappropriate use of Nantucket Sound. But you've got public safety issues, you've got economic issues, and you've got environmental impacts. And just to go into each of those a little bit to make the viewers more familiar, and we can talk about it more in detail later as well. But in terms of public safety, you've got issues for fishermen that fish Horseshoe Shoal, a lot of commercial fishermen that are earning their livelihoods there. You've got Mass Fishermen's Partnership, which is an umbrella organization of 18 commercial fishing groups in Massachusetts, and they oppose this project because they're concerned about the impact to fisheries and the safety of their fishermen. You've got the local airports that are concerned about the passenger safety of the 400,000 flights each year that are going over Nantucket Sound around the footprint of the proposed Cape Wind project, and then also the ferry lines, the High Line and the Steamship Authority, who are transporting 3 million passengers per year and also oppose the project because of concerns of passenger safety.
And so this graphic behind you is kind of the footprint of the project?
Exactly, exactly. And the interesting thing about it shows the 25 square mile footprint, as well as the triangle that you see around it is actually showing the navigation paths that the ferries and other boats take around that. So you see how close it is to that footprint, and you can see what kind of problems we would have with that, particularly in an area that's heavily characterized by fog. By anyone that uses Nantucket Sound, I'm sure knows how frequently that happens. The other issues that we see that are really problematic are the economic impacts. You know, as you know, living here, the Cape and Islands is largely dependent on tourism.
Yes.
And we have some serious concerns about what the impact would be on tourism if we were to industrialize Nantucket Sound, which is really the heart and soul of the Cape and Islands economy. And the other thing that has come out recently is in the last year, you've had 3 other offshore wind projects canceled because of the extremely high cost of generating this power.
And that's just in the U.S. alone?
In the U.S. alone, all the other offshore wind projects have been canceled because it's been found out that the costs of generating power are so high. Now, we know wind is free, so people think that wind-generated power is free, but in fact, the capital investment to build a project, for example, on Cape Wind, it's going to be at least $1 billion to build this project. And in a federal report that just came out on Monday from the agency in charge, and we can talk about that a little bit more later, they showed that the cost of wind generated, the cost of power generated by Cape Wind would be 2 to 3 times more expensive than current market prices. So the public really needs to understand we're going to pay for this project. We're going to pay a private developer to make money by increased rates and by paying subsidies and tax credits. So this is an expensive project, and we are going to pay for it here in New England.
And is it true that also that this project would be heavily subsidized by the taxpayers as well, not just by the rates that you'd be paying for your electricity?
Exactly. In fact, at the federal level, there's something called the production tax credit. So federally, there would be a subsidy, and in Massachusetts, as well as in some other states, there's what's called the Renewable Portfolio Standard, which is an incentive to get more renewable energy onto the market, and so that there would be a subsidy or a tax credit from that as well. So a heavy portion of Cape Wind's project would be financed or would be recouped from these tax credits and subsidies on top of whatever else may be borne out in rates. And we see that the cost is going to have to go somewhere, because this project is going to cost 2 to 3 times what we're currently paying. And in New England, we have one of the highest rates in the country to start with. And then the last area, Katie, is environmental impacts. And we have some serious concerns about basically pile driving 18-foot diameter structures 80 feet into the seabed, and what that will do to the seafloor, as well as what that will do to fisheries, marine mammals, and then of course the birds that fly, migrate, and live in the area of Nantucket Sound. So there's some serious issues about this project, and we really need people to understand that and get involved and stop this and know that this is not a done deal, and it's important for the public to get involved, make their voices heard.
Great. Well, the viewers certainly have a lot to think about in terms of the Cape Wind project, but I think it's important for our viewers to know that opposing the Cape Wind project does not mean in any way you're opposed to renewable energy or opposed to wind power in general, and that this is all about appropriate siting of renewable energy projects and taking an honest look at the costs and benefits, especially as Audra discussed the vast costs. The wind is free, but Cape Wind is not free. So I think it's important that being in opposition to the Cape Wind project does not make you anti-renewable energy or anti-wind power by any means. So
that's right, and that is an important point. And the other important point is that we're going to be having hearings coming up that are being run by Mineral Management Service, which is the lead federal agency in charge of reviewing the Cape Wind project. And those hearings are going to be here on the Cape and Islands, as well as in Boston from March 10th to the 13th. So it's important for you to know that these hearings will be ongoing. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. And now I think Katie's going to talk about a video we want to show you.
Yes, I'm pleased to show you now our newly released video entitled Nantucket Sound. Once it's gone forever. But please stay with us at the conclusion of the video, because we'll return with Audra Parker and talk a bit more about the threats of Cape Wind, and more importantly, what you as a private citizen can do to stop this project and to stop the inappropriate industrialization of Nantucket Sound. So please enjoy the video and stay with us.